Welcome back to the TKO show. Today I'm just going to be talking about the college football schedule coming up this Saturday. Just jumping straight into it with some games. The first game that I see is actually decent is Oregon State versus Arizona. Oregon State's 11th. Arizona is unranked, but they have had some really close games against some good opponents. They lost to Washington, who was 7th at the time, a couple weeks ago. They lost to them 31-24. Then the next week they lost to USC, who was 9th at the time, 43-41. Then last week they got absolutely hammered by Washington State, 44-6. I still think that Arizona has the potential to win this game, or at least keep it close. I do think that they're right on the cusp of beating that top 10, top 15 team I just feel like they're right on the cusp. And I feel like Oregon State, they're a great team. I like how they're playing, but I do feel like Arizona does have the opportunity to beat Oregon State. So for that reason alone, I do think Arizona is going to win that. Next game is Ohio State, Wisconsin, I should say. Ohio State's 3rd, Wisconsin's not ranked, but Wisconsin always plays at least decently against Ohio State. So I do think that this will be a competitive game, but Ohio State's defense is, honestly, I think they have one of the top defenses in the nation, which I don't think Wisconsin has anything to combat that offensive-wise, in my opinion. And Ohio State's offense is starting to come into their own and starting to figure everything out. So for that reason, I have Ohio State winning that one. Moving on, next game, Tennessee, Kentucky. Tennessee's 21, Kentucky's unranked. Both 5-2. Both teams very good this season. Tennessee, very good, has a great offense. Kentucky, pretty good offense from what little I've seen from them. I have Kentucky winning in this one in an upset. I don't know. I just didn't see a lot from Tennessee against Alabama. I feel like Kentucky has that one. Moving on to a really, really good game, in my opinion, is Duke-Louisville. Duke is 20th. Louisville is 18th. Duke has 2 losses. And, man, last week against Florida State, they kind of fell apart. They were up 17-0 in the first half, or first quarter at least. Then it just kind of seemed like they gave up a little bit, and Florida State ended up winning 38-20, and it seemed like Florida State just came alive. But Duke does have some decent wins, or has one decent win against Clemson, but that was first week of the season, shocked everyone, and that's when Clemson was ranked 9th. They're not good this season, but they also had a really close game against Notre Dame, who has proved themselves, only losing 21-14. I know I hate this term, but that's a good loss. That's a loss that, you're expecting, but you still put up a great, great fight. So Duke having that and just playing phenomenally. Their quarterback doing pretty well. But with Louisville, they did beat Notre Dame 33-20. And their one loss come against Pitt. But as I've said a couple of times, Pitt is a solid team this season. They're better than their record suggests, or than their record says. Pitt is a solid team, and I feel like Pitt can beat anyone in the nation, as we saw with Louisville last week. So this is going to be a very, very good game. Both teams can move the ball very well, and we'll just see what happens. I do have Louisville winning that one, just because Louisville I feel like is the better team. and they're able to move the ball better. Moving on to the next game is Georgia, Florida. Georgia's won. Florida's not ranked, but is 5-2. I feel like Florida, and I know I'm going to get a little hate for this, but I feel like Florida can beat Georgia. Georgia hasn't been playing phenomenally lately. Now, I don't expect them to blow out every opponent by 45 points, but when you're beating Vanderbilt 37-20, come on now, it's Vanderbilt. They're the laughingstock of the SEC. How are you only beating them by 17? How? And not to mention, only winning by 7 to Auburn. Now, you have to at least win by a couple of touchdowns to some of these teams, but come on now. A 1-touchdown win against Auburn, yeah, I do feel like Florida does have the ability to upset Georgia coming into this game. They did beat Tennessee third week of the season. They beat them 29-18. They lost first game of the season to Utah, only 24-11. They've had some good wins, but they also 3 weeks ago, had a loss to Kentucky 33-14. Did not see that game, but I feel like Florida does have the ability to beat them. Just coming into this game, being able to have some wins over some good teams. But yeah, I have Florida winning that one. Next game that I do think is going to be good is Oklahoma, Texas. Oklahoma has been playing very well. Dylan Gabriel has been playing very well as well, having 2,100 yards on the season with 19 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. I think he will be able to bounce back after that, after not playing very well against UCF last week. But Kansas always puts on a great game against Oklahoma. I remember 2 years ago, I was up in Green Bay for a Packers game, and I was watching that Oklahoma-Kansas game where they just open the gates and let the students come in because Kansas was looking like they were going to beat Oklahoma, and it didn't help that Caleb Williams, and I'm pretty sure that's actually the game that they benched Spencer Rattler for Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams ended up coming in and winning that game for him. But yeah, this game is always fun to watch. I do think that Kansas can get over the hump this year, but I still have Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a powerhouse this year. They're looking like they can make the playoffs. So I do think this will be a good close game, but I do have Oklahoma being able to pull it out. Moving on to the next game is Notre Dame versus Pitt. Notre Dame's 14th. Pitt's unranked, 2-5. But like I said earlier, Pitt is a good team. They have the ability to upset anyone in the nation, and I feel like they're going to do that here. Notre Dame is a good team. They beat some great teams. This season. They beat Duke. They lost to Louisville, which was a little bit embarrassing. Lost to Ohio State. That was as close of a matchup as you could get. They did beat USC last week. So coming off of a huge win against USC, I think they'll underestimate Pitt and end up losing this game. This is a game that I can see them blowing. Notre Dame has a tendency to come in against lesser opponents and underestimate them and just come in and lose. So for that reason, I do have Pitt winning that one. And I have Pitt winning by at least 2 touchdowns on that one, honestly. But yeah, moving on to the last game in my game of the week is Oregon-Utah. This will be a great game. Great test for Bo Nix. Utah's been playing phenomenally. Utah has some good wins on the season. They beat USC last week. They beat UCLA earlier this year. Did lose to Oregon State, but I'm not holding that against them. UCLA Oregon State is a great team. But yeah, I do have Utah winning that one, upsetting Oregon. But yeah, I think that's going to be a great game. Oregon does have a great offense. I just don't see their defense being able to hold Utah's offense. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. I will see you next time. Peace.